My name is Eric Kinsey. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and you're listening to Rulers and Riders, the podcast where we talk to creative people about what they do and what they ride. My guest this week is my buddy Wesley Wren. Wesley is a native of Indianapolis, Indiana, and about 2 years ago he made the move up to Detroit, Michigan to take a gig with Auto Week magazine as a writer. Wes was raised in a hot rod and chopper family. His dad, Lon, is definitely one of the coolest cats I've ever met and builds some really, really sick hot rods and bikes. Wesley absorbed it all, as well as his dad's great musical taste. I've known him for a long time, since he was in high school, and it's been really gratifying to watch him develop not only as a young man, but also his personal taste and professionally as a writer. So it was great to sit down and talk to him about all the stuff we're both passionate about. It's a pretty long talk. It's hour and 47 minutes. I considered breaking it up over 2 episodes, but I tried to kind of figure out a halfway break point, and there just really isn't one. So if you want to listen to this conversation, you might want to do it in 2 settings, or maybe on your commute to work, and then maybe on your commute back, and then maybe with your dinner a little bit too. But it was a good talk, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think you will too. Let's talk to Wesley. Yeah.
So I feel like an idiot there.
I don't know, man. You know, I love 13th floor elevators so much, and I'm afraid. He's like one of those people that I'm afraid if I go see him, I'm going to be like really let down.
Okay, cool.
You know?
So I understand that.
Yeah. I never went and saw George Jones either.
Yeah.
And like he's, you know, like my all-time like country singing idol.
Yeah.
But I was just like, what if he sucks? Like what if he has like an off night? Like what it
yeah.
You know? So
it'll taint your entire experience with him.
Right. My dreams would be crushed.
Yeah. It's like the same reason I didn't see the Jesus and Mary chain, because like why? And they're gonna be bad. They're not gonna be good. Like I can listen to Psycho Candy and Darklands all day. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I was, you know, like last week, The Damned came through.
Yeah.
And like every review I read is like, oh, they're great, but I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, at what point does like your like cool like band become like dad rock of like?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You're just like a bunch of 60-year-old men playing, you know,
shitty punk songs you wrote in the
80s. Yeah, 70s. Yeah.
I mean, like that's how I feel about Negative Approach, despite them being awesome. Like, and sure, I'm gonna see them play with Red Cross or whatever, but like, when's it stop being relevant as like your original message?
Well,
when you just stop.
I don't know. I mean, does the message of nihilism ever get old? Does the self-hating lyrics of John Brannon, do those ever go out of style? I mean,
I say so. Like, if you're like 50 with a mortgage and like a happy marriage and a family, it's like you can't be too much of a nihilist. Like, your shit turned out okay.
Oh no, John Brandon like works at a restaurant and lives in an apartment. And he's
then sure, he can be miserable still.
yeah, he's still like as hateful as ever.
Oh, that's good then. But like take big names like Ian MacKaye, where it's like straight edge. I'll never be an adult. He's a minor at heart. Or he might be an adult, but he's a minor at heart.
Right.
Dude's a fucking dweeb. Like, I mean, I love him, but come on, he's like just a fucking like he's in his 40s, just like hanging out.
Yeah, I don't know. I had some friends who worked at the Black Cat, and they told me some funny stories about Ian, which is cool. I've never met him, but I think I think if your music is especially like really like like very much connected with like a political movement or like an ideology, it's going to be like really hard to like still play that kind of music at 50. But I don't know. I mean, bands still do it. I mean,
yeah.
It's just one of those things where I have such a crystallized idea of certain bands. Like I don't want to go. I don't want to see the Sonics or whatever. I just don't. I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
I almost fucking did, and I'm so glad I didn't.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but you might be. I don't know. A band called Death, like an all African American 70s proto punk band.
Oh yeah.
I saw them, and it was tight, whatever, but it was sad. It's just like these guys are in their 50s trying to relive their youth.
Right.
But if I like tickets to the Sonics were like $20, and it was going to be on like Sunday night, it would have been great. But then it hit me, it was like, these aren't the same teenagers that recorded like Strychnine, The Witch.
Yeah.
It's like they're dweebs, like they're old fogies. Like it's not going to be the same raw energy that inspired everybody, inspired punk rock.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and if you take a band like the Sonics, it's like there's only like two of the original dudes, and like Jerry, the Jerry Rosley, the singer, like he's not even with them. And I mean, that's cool. It's the same thing with like the Zero Boys. It's like there's only two of the original members of the Zero Boys. And I mean, that, Terry was gone by the time I started seeing them in high school. But even with like, Vess was like the guitar player for the Zero Boys longer than Terry was. So to me, like that was like the Zero Boys. But now that, the guitar, Vess and Tufty aren't in the Zero Boys, it's just like, well, it's like it's like half of a cover band, It's like I would, I would just rather go see a band do Zero Boys covers than, go see some like Ersatz version of the band I love. So
which is what Manor Astroman did in like the mid 2000s. They just sent out a bunch of cover bands. It was so funny. It's so good.
Yeah. Why not?
Are you familiar with a band called the Necros?
Oh yeah, from Detroit. Yeah, hardcore band.
Yeah. I'm like tight with the original guitar player. It's so fucked up. He works for Car and Driver.
Oh no way.
Yeah, Andy Windler. Yeah, he's a good fucking dude.
Oh, that's pretty rad, man.
Yeah, we like I was picking his brain in Louisville about like the scene and like all the bands he played with and everything. And he's got so many fucked up stories. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'll have to introduce you sometime. He's a saint. He's a good dude.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So I started the recording. I've just been like recording us talking about music. So
okay, that's fine.
Normally I would introduce you. I would do like, hey, what's up? That whole thing. But I mean, that's at this point that would be pretty silly, I think.
You can. It doesn't matter.
So hey, what's going on, guys? This week my guest is Wes Wren. How you doing, Wes?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hell yeah.
So I met you, God, I don't even know, It's been
long time ago.
Long time ago. You were just a little kid. I
for sure was.
I don't
know.
I don't even know if you could drive when I first met you.
I don't think I could either. Like, I genuinely don't know where I met you. It's been so long.
I kind of think it was like we were at a car show, and like we were friends on Facebook or something, and like you just came up to me and you're like, "Hey, I'm Wesley," and I'm like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you're that dude," and then we just.
If I was on Facebook, I could drive. So
okay.
Maybe 16, 17. I don't know.
It probably
about when I got Facebook.
It probably was. I think it was at World of Wheels. I think that's.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yep.
I think that's actually probably where we met for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're pretty good friends. I'm pretty good friends with your brother. Like he was just over here, like not even an hour ago. You guys are such dicks to each other. It kills me.
I love that little kid, but man, he does not like me.
You guys.
I genuinely love him. He was working on my shovelhead or whatever.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, got it running for you.
I mean, I had it running. It just he hasn't running the way it'll actually run.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wrote that story about you guys for show class forever ago, and
4 years ago.
Yeah, was it that long? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, you shot it. Well, you shot it for a magazine that will not be named. For sure, 4 years ago, because I was 21, and I'm almost 26. So
right. Well, one thing I've always been super impressed with about you guys, and your sister Candy too, is just how cool you guys are. Like you're all individuals, but I've just always been really impressed by your whole family. I don't know your mom. I don't know your mom as well as you guys, but
you're not missing much.
But I mean, your dad, Lon, I still talk to him every once in a while, and it's just so cool how you guys have all taken your dad's influence, and you've kind of all ran with it in your own individual directions.
For sure, yeah, I would agree to that. Candace obviously has some kids now, and she's a total, I don't want to say suburban because Irvington and Indianapolis is not suburban, but total suburban mom, crunchy mom.
Right.
And Christian's I think Christian is living what is closest to my dad's original life.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out. It's great.
Right.
Doing dumb stuff.
Right.
And I'm the milquetoast dweeb who has got an office job.
Yeah.
And it's yep, yes sir.
Yeah.
But it's obviously car centric, so.
Yeah, but it's a really cool job. So
yeah, it's a super cool job. Yeah.
So kind of we'll just start from the beginning. So your dad had you guys sort of started having kids a little bit later in life.
Yeah, my sister's 32 now, and my dad's 69, so you can kind of do the math there.
Right.
So I think my dad was 37 thereabouts when he had Candace.
Right.
Or when he got my mom pregnant, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, obviously a later attempt at starting a life, which is good for me.
Yeah.
A little shot in the arm with pride. It's I can still do this.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously that made things harder or whatever for him because he was an older man as we all started to grow up.
Uh-huh.
So less relatable, less cool dad. But I spent all my formative years with him.
Right.
Doing stupid stuff with cars.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I always thought your dad was super cool, man.
My dad rules.
Yeah. Lon is. Lon is if I knew Lon, if we had both been younger men at the same time, I know I would be really good friends with your dad back then.
My dad was super rowdy. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
Like, he used to, growing up, and this is why I respect the whole, like, outlaw motorcycle culture or whatever, whatever it is, whatever the hipster kids call it these days. Like, because my dad grew up around two rival motorcycle clubs, two prominent rival motorcycle clubs. He was building bikes in the 70s, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he'd tell me stories about people getting cut, like, over games of pool, and, like, bikes getting stolen, and just making friends with criminals. It's a lot of good times. A lot of good times in the 70s.
Yeah.
And there's a famous shooting for listeners outside of Indianapolis that are unaware. There's the loop, the I-465 loop around Indianapolis. I believe, outlaws were heading to a funeral, and you can cut all this out, and the Sons of Silence kind of rolled up and did a casual shotgun maneuver on a van full of outlaws. I think that's what happened. I don't know. I would just hear stories like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty well known. I mean, there's no, like, I used to date this girl from...
Hell yeah.
I did, at least one. But I used to date this girl...
Me.
Yeah. I dated one from... she was from Longmont, Colorado, and that's where the Sons of Silence started.
Yeah.
And the guy... I think they just call him the dude. He's like the guy that started the Sons of Silence.
Hell yeah.
But he still lives in Longmont, and he rides...
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, and he rides like an Ironhead, chopper. And, but her dad knew him by name, and, like, they were friends in, the 70s. And he knew all about it. Like, he knew all about, like, the gang war between the Sons of Silence and the Outlaws in Indianapolis in the 70s and 80s. And there's been, like, I've watched, like, I think Gang Wars, like the TV show.
On History Channel, yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen, all the FBI footage. And I mean, dude, I've been around some outlaw dudes before, and it's like they're pretty serious,
It's a different breed for sure. It's a different program.
Yeah.
And that's, like, hearing those stories kind of instilled that in me, that, like, no matter how cool or whatever stupid thing I think I am, like, if I'm ever on a bike and near a real clubber, it's like, just be respectful.
Yeah, just be cool.
And mind your own fucking business.
Yep. Exactly.
Or else, because, like Hunter S. Thompson found out.
Yeah.
You aren't one. Whether or not you think you are or not, you aren't one.
Right.
Until you have that patch on your back.
Yeah.
Like, you're nothing.
Yeah.
As far as they're concerned, of course.
Yep, that's for sure. So, I think, just for, like, anybody that doesn't know you, that'll be the majority of the audience.
Hopefully.
What was cool about your dad, and I mean, and we'll get to, like, how it affected you guys, but what was cool about your dad was, I think he told me, like, he went and saw either, I can't remember, it was like Wild Angels or Easy Rider. But he said he went and saw it and then, like, started chopping his motorcycle, like, the next day.
Yeah, I think it was Wild Angels, because he had a WLA.
Yeah.
That he picked up and took it apart. And a WLA, for listeners, if you're not aware, is the Army version of the 45 cubic inch Harley Flathead. It must have been Wild Angels, because he cut his first bike up, pissed off his dad because he took over the garage, and, like, 66, I think, he was about 18.
Right.
Dad was born in 48. So, because Easy Rider, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't come out till 68?
69.
69, okay, because I remember my dad said he rode a shovel to Easy Rider. It was super sick.
A brand new bike. Right.
But I think it was a shovel.
Yeah.
Or something like that, yeah, because, and then he went to the Army, got drafted.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, it was, he said, yeah, the minute he saw, like, Wild Angel or whatever was the minute he was ate up.
Right.
With the whole cutting up motorcycles thing.
Yeah.
And actually, to dive deeper into it, there was a kid, because my dad grew up, for listeners who are unfamiliar with Indianapolis, on the near, like, north side Lawrence.
Uh-huh.
My dad grew up in Lawrence Township, and one of his buddies had a Triumph, and I don't know exactly what Triumph, but smaller one probably, and he was just getting girls, just because he had a bike. And my dad had a piece of shit 57 Ford, two-door hardtop, an idiot, but still a piece of shit. And he was like, this car is not getting me any girls. What's going to get me girls? A motorcycle. and that's how the WLA, he couldn't even ride when he bought that WLA. Obviously it's rocker clutch tank shift, so he had his buddy ride it home, and the first time he rode it, he wiped out his parents' fence. It was so funny. He was so pissed off. It was great.
Yeah. It's pretty good, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. If you want girls, ride a 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
Science.
They don't know the difference. They'll never know.
No.
Yeah, I think you had told me too that like your dad, like introduced you to like, you know, music sensibilities like Golden Oldies and the Beach Boys and Velvet Underground and
for sure, yeah.
MC5 and stuff like that too.
Yeah, a bunch of weird, like, I grew up listening to like the Beach Boys and like Jan and Dean, all that surf rock stuff, and then obviously like doo-wop stuff and a little bit of Sun, a little bit of proto-punk, but also it was juxtaposed with like Montrose, which Montrose isn't very cool, but still bad motor scooters a jam, and like the Velvet Underground and the MC5 and like really politically charged stuff, like punk rock basically, which he later accepted as being punk rock.
Right.
That obviously had an impact on me because in like high school and early college, I was writing for a punk rock little zine that was based in New York, and I've been a weird music nerd, as you know, and as listeners don't. Like most of my weekends are spent if I'm not working and going to shows or listening to your latest vinyl. Yeah. It's kind of like become a theme with the show of like early imprinting and like those formative experiences. Yeah. And that a lot of people, I think maybe for you and your brother and, you know, like how I was raised, I think it's a little bit like more of a deeper thing. It's just, you've always been around cars. You've always been around music. But with a lot of people, I'm like, hey, what was that, you know, when was that thing when like the switch just flipped on for you? And I think for you, it's like, it's a lot different because that was just how you were raised. It was just like a pervasive part of your childhood, and you wouldn't have known any different, you know? And like, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, to a certain extent, I agree. I mean, I grew up around it, and it wasn't so much an option, like playing with cars and motorcycles and being into like snobby music, wasn't so much an option as like it was a trajectory. But I spent a lot of my formative years like more or less being a jock. Like I was super into sports, because as the old adage is, like, you're gonna rebel against your parents somehow. Like, so might as well be like a jock, like a whatever. If your dad's super cool, which is why if I ever have kids, I want to make sure my kid knows I'm a dweeb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was super into sports, and then I don't know, probably around 13, it just, I don't know. It came back to me like, this is my heritage, this is my role, this is my lot in life.
Yeah.
This is a way I can, like, specifically old cars, it's a way I can feed all of the things that I want out of my own existence, which sounds really blowhard, but it's true. Like, you get your analytical side of things with, like, observing history in the past and paying your respects to tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get your artistic side, like your artistic release with, like, paint work, which I can't do, like metal fab, which I can do a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And just overall, like, conceptual, like, I want to turn a 54 Ford into a car that would have been built for indoor shows in, like, 1961.
Right.
And fail miserably at it, but still do it. But, like, I don't know. Like, when I was in my early adolescence is kind of when the switch flipped back on, where I was like, I'm not going to fight really what I like, and then kind of go back to just being a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah. What cars and bikes did your dad have in the garage when you were growing up?
Oh, when I was growing up, well, early on, which I don't know if this is a memory that I have or if it was one imprinted on me, but, like, when I was growing up, when I was just born, my dad had a 54 Ford, probably a custom line, 2-door, that he cut into a convertible, like, put a Sunliner top assembly in and Sunliner cowl top and all that crap, made it a true convertible without the X-frame. So it was kind of a piece of shit. It was a really nice car. Like, it looked nice, but it was not the way you should have done, not the way you should do a car. And he then sold that, bought a fiberglass T-bucket with a small block, which he kind of retroed out. And then he had a super cool 57 Ford Fairlane 500 2-door hardtop, so Club Victoria or whatever, with a gnarly FE in it. Like, I don't know how gnarly it was, because I was young, I was maybe like 6. It was the first 4-speed I ever shifted. But I remember had such a lopey cam, like, big duration and overlap, that it would, like, stumble at idle so hard that it would shake the fenders. And I was like, this is a life for me. And mind you, this is, like, I was, like, 6, so 1997, like, a slammed 1957 Ford, Raven Black, with an FE on bias plies and chrome wheels. Like, that's right as the whole traditional hot rod movement started to, like, swing upward, and well before, I'd argue, the traditional custom movement, which probably happened in the last 15 years, started to really take a hold. And then, like, sold that, bought a 34 Ford 4-door that was an old show car, which we had forever. There was an L88 Vet in the garage for a little bit, which was his boss's car. Still has. That's a big ticket item.
Yeah.
And 32 Ford truck, which, for listeners, if you've made it this far, congrats. If you guys are familiar with the Good Guys, like, suede and chrome logo, it's that pickup. And then sold that and bought Eric Kane's abandoned Model A.
Yep.
Which is a 29 Ford Roadster, the Y block.
Yeah.
Which we bought it as a 29 Ford Roadster with a Y block. That was all junk.
Yeah.
Because it was a product, like, concept.
The funny thing about that is, like, I remember Kane coming over to my house with that Roadster in the back of his truck, and it just, the panels were just, like, stacked up, because that's how much in pieces it was.
Oh, it was junk. Like, it was like we have the body. It's now Brookville panels, but, like, we sold the body for I want to say $500 to some kid in Terre Haute, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a car yet, but it was rough, even for the early 2000 standards of Model A's. Like, it was super rough.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I think he got it in Kansas at a junkyard, and I think he'd found the cowl, like, sitting outside, and he went into, like, a bus. He said they had a bus, and he, like, dug through just, like, a bus full of parts and came out with the doors and the quarter panels. Yeah.
Sounds like Eric.
Yeah.
But I mean, the redeeming thing about that car was it had real Roadster door tops and real Roadster quarters.
Yep.
Which, I might add, nobody reproduces the Roadster quarters.
Yep. Strange.
I don't think. No. They reproduce Roadster quarters, not coupe quarters. There we go.
Gotcha.
Because there's a Roadster quarter on my dad's coupe. He's got a 31 Ford Model A coupe with a big Pontiac in it.
Uh-huh.
Now is his current little hot rod, as well as the Model A Roadster.
Yeah. And I think that probably brings it up to like when I met you guys.
Yeah, you probably met us when you had the Roadster, and Christian had just finished the Sportster.
Yep.
And obviously had my 54 Ford.
So how did you end up with the 54 Ford?
Oh, man. Dumb idea. Well, originally, because I knew I wanted a car, like a real car. So I had to kind of like argue with my parents and kind of figure out the situation. My dad and I looked at a really nice 59 Edsel, which I should have bought. It was such a nice car. Virtually rust-free. Interior was in okay shape. Solid. A solid 2-car or 3-car maybe. It was like Thunderbird Bronze and Desert Sand. It's a really, really nice car. And then I decided that Edsels weren't cool for whatever reason because I'm an idiot. That split bumper on the nose and the tail just doesn't do it for me. And so I was like 15, and one morning my dad was like, "We're going to Putnamville." And for listeners that aren't aware, Putnamville is where Indiana houses its state penitentiary.
Okay.
And we drove to Putnamville. It's basically a 2-stoplight town. And we looked in this dude's garage, friend of a friend. And we looked at a 54 Ford Crestline Victoria, which I'm super into 52 to 54 Fords. I have been since my dad built that convertible. So it's like, well, if this car's a solid car, it's the one for me. It was priced higher than it should have been, considering it was a piece of junk. Bottom 8 inches were gone, which we didn't really know, and to throw a magnet on it. So yeah, just did that, and then eventually put quarters, rockers, inner rockers, inner quarters, and a bunch of different modifications to fix the fuck-ups. But basically, I just kind of convinced my parents I needed an old car to drive, keep me safe, keep me out of trouble, keep me out of doing a bunch of coke or anything. And then worked. I was detailing cars to help pay for gas and buy stuff for it, and then eventually scored a sick job selling parts, which carried me through college a little bit.
At the Zone.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. But basically, yeah, it's just like more of a situation where my dad knew, like, this is the only way it's gonna, like, make me happy, which sounds very, very uppity and childish, but, like, also, he wanted another car too, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Can't have too many projects.
Right. Yeah, and then when did your dad build the Shovelhead?
Before then. Because my dad put that Shovelhead together when I was like 12, 13. Because my brother started working on the Sportster about that same time, which would put him about 15, 16. Because my dad wanted to ride with Christian. So after he gave him the Sportster and started working on the Sportster, the blue Sportster, he was like, well, I just got to do something. So he bought a basket case, cone shovel, put it in a Paco frame, blah, blah, blah. I was out there hanging out with him or whatever. And so, probably about, I was 12, 13, so, 13, 14 years ago. I have some really good pictures if you want to throw them up on the on the internet. But so probably about that time, and he spent a couple years on it, or at least a year.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hitting swap meets and stuff with him, looking for vintage Harley stuff and chopper stuff, which I was relatively removed from because I more grew up around the whole custom car side of things.
Right.
So it was nice to go to swap meets and find NOS Wassail gas tanks.
Yeah.
For $20.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what's cool about you guys and I mean for me personally, like the whole like I got into like, you know, hot rods definitely through like the rockabilly scene, like that, you know, like I have no shame in admitting that. But you know, I did grow up in like a family, went to a lot of racing and, you know, did a lot of automotive stuff and rode mini bikes and all that stuff. But I think it's cool how like with you guys, your dad was just like so stylistically ahead of the curve as far as like traditional hot rods, traditional customs, even really traditional choppers. I mean, he just he really did pass his eye on to you guys. I mean, like there's no doubt about that at all.
Yeah. I mean, that raises the whole like question of validity of like trends and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Because like, I don't know, as people started putting together like short chop Evo Sportsters, I was like, oh, that's kind of looks like my brother's bike from 15 years ago. You guys should really work on being more original. It's like, come on, guys. It's like, and it's not like my dad just like engineered or did anything crazy. It's like you stick to a stupid formula, and the formula is timeless, and like you're not going to lose your ass when you try to sell it.
Right.
But like, yeah, growing up, my dad was trying to recreate his youth to a certain extent. Which, I mean, my brother, and to a lesser extent now, I am, is trying to recreate an era that we have never experienced, whereas my dad was just trying to do what he knew, or what he thought he knew, what he aspired to know.
Right.
So, with him, it was more reaching towards nostalgia.
Right.
And trying to capture that, which, ironically enough, became, like, the biggest thing to happen to cars and motorcycles in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
But that's back when it didn't matter. And when you could find parts for cheap.
Yeah.
When you could find an AEE Springer for $25 at a swap meet.
Yeah, I remember going to a swap meet. Gosh, I don't know. It's been a while. It was probably like early days. It's probably even when I still had the BSA. But somebody had like one of those like real long Springers, like an old, you know, like AEE or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's too. I always used to call those parts like Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch parts because it just reminded me of that old cartoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's too Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch, and it was like a perfectly awesome, you know, 18 over, you know, Springer or something.
Yeah.
Totally sick, and the guy.
If you threw it on Chopper Swapper now, and it's probably like a fucking Dick Allen, and it's worth $4,000.
Yeah, well, don't give me a heart attack and make me think I walked past that. But it was something like really cool, and the guy wanted like, I don't know, like $100 for it, and like all I really wanted was the headlight, and he was just like, well, the headlight goes with it. It's $100, and I'm like, nah, dude, I just want the headlight. And he's like, well, it's $100 for the headlight, and you get the free forks or whatever. But it was just like there were just tons of, you know, especially 70s chopper parts. Like nobody wanted them, even up until like 10 years ago. Yeah, for sure.
Well, until like I don't know, Speed Metal built that 32 over whatever panhead, and that kind of that kind of brought people's attention back to super long bikes.
Right.
But yeah, until 10 years ago, nobody wanted anything long bike.
Right.
Which I tend to agree. I'm not like, I think long bikes are cool.
Yeah.
But I'm more into the whole like drag racing side of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So shovels got worthless K model legs on it that basically are like wannabe Serianis. It's super short.
Right.
And who knows? One day it might get a monster motor. One day it might get a pro stock frame. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate long bikes for what they are. And now that they're super popular, it kind of makes me appreciate them even more. But there was a time when you could buy those like long front ends for nothing, and you could buy off-brand like Fury stuff for nothing a few years ago.
Yeah. I even remember like people like buying those, stuff like Fury and Century and kind of the lower end of the '70s chopper stuff, and just like cutting them down to like closer to stock length, like maybe like 2 over or something.
Yeah, my buddy Nick on his BSA 6.5 has, I believe, a Fury that was about 12 over, cut down to like 2 under.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was like, "Who cares? With long front end, cut it.
Yeah.
Like, you'll make it work. It'll be fine."
Yeah, totally.
And, I mean, I'd still say that because it's Fury, whatever. But like, yeah, I can't imagine how many Dick Allens were cut down.
Oh, don't say that. Yeah, I know. So, I think so. When you graduated from high school,
2010.
Wow. God.
Yeah, I know, right?
Make me feel old as shit.
Makes me feel young.
Thanks, dude. When I remember you going to IUPUI and you were gonna major in English. And you wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah. Which I was gonna do, like, my original trajectory, because I'm very smart, I was gonna be an econ major, then I found out how stupid I was.
Yeah.
And then got into the whole education side of things. In which, it's fine. Like, teachers are great. I respect them a lot. They do a lot of hard work. But Indiana did a neat thing about, I was sophomore or junior, where they changed the licensing laws for teachers. And I was like, I'm not getting a very good English education out of this. I'm getting a very good teaching education, learning pedagogy extremely well.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not for me. And also, I don't know when I'm going to graduate because this program's a little goofy. So then I transferred over to being a straight English major, English Lit. And I graduated in 15. That's 5 years and a 4 year, so I'm not super proud of that. But, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I have a piece of paper that says I can analyze literature extremely well. I'm an exemplary student.
Yeah. Well, but I think where you ended up, I think is pretty awesome. And I mean, and you had mentioned the zine you were writing for in New York. Which one was that?
It was called The Miscreant. It's since become its own record label. And it's a very successful record label as far as like indie labels go and as upstarts go. But yeah, I was writing for The Miscreant like fairly regularly since its inception until about like issue 15 or so. I would do like record reviews and stuff like that. I tried to do a love column, and that was stupid. That was a bad move on my part. A little miscommunication there. And I just do like, in retrospect, very cringy think pieces. But yeah, did a lot of record reviews and stuff like that. Not a lot, probably a handful, 10 at most.
Right.
If anybody's listening to this has read The Miscreant and can confirm or deny that, please shoot me an email.
Yeah, but I mean that was good training. I mean that was good training for where you ended up after school.
Oh, for sure. It was like I looked at that as like portfolio building. Even back then, it was like my stupid degree is not going to get me a job anywhere. Like it's going to get me a job maybe at a school. But it's nice to have a portfolio of work,
right?
Which my friends in like art school kind of coached me into,
right?
Of something you can show that you can do a job,
right?
And I actually, when I was applying for my current job, which is with Auto Week magazine,
right?
I turned in a review of. There's a Bloomington-based band called Sleeping Bag, which is Dave Segedy and a bunch of other people.
Okay.
And like a Virginia-based band called Roswell Kid.
Okay.
They did this weird like collab record, Dave Segedy and the dude from Roswell Kid, called Dreamboats. I submitted that in my piece of work and article I wrote for show class, and some stuff from college. It's very funny. It's a very, very shitty portfolio to submit, all things considered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. Like I wrote that when I was like, I don't know, I have to look it up. When I was like 20, and it was not good.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fine. But like,
Must
it was
have been good
basically like,
enough.
it must have been. Yeah. I don't know. I think the show class article that I wrote for Josh kind of was more the focus point.
Yeah. Automotive related.
Automotive related, and also like where our magazine is trying to go more. Not really counterculture because chopper culture is kind of mainstream, but like more niche and enthusiast based.
Right. So you're working for Auto Week now, and you've been there a year at least, right?
Almost 2, yeah. Going on 2 this August.
What? I'm not like super familiar with Auto Week, but just kind of like tell me a little bit about like what their like editorial focus is. And maybe like a little bit about the history of the magazine as far as you know, and then kind of like walk me through like what you're doing there as a writer and in the podcast you become involved with there and so on and so forth.
Yeah. God, you think I'd be better at answering questions considering I run a podcast.
I know.
So Auto Week magazine started in 1958 as Competition Press, a newsletter about racing and motorsports. Out of a guy's garage. I forget who. It's important. I should know this. Eventually, it was bought by the company in which I work for in like 1980. Anybody with Wikipedia can look this up. It's Crane Communications. They do a lot of stuff. But it was bought in like 1980 by Crane or thereabouts.
Right.
And before then it became Auto Week and Competition Press, and then Competition Press got rolled into Auto Week. It's a weird trajectory. Anyway, we also had a couple TV shows, in case people are familiar with those, such as like Inside a Garage, Auto Week's Inside a Garage, and I think we had just a straight TV show called Auto Week. Anyway, our editorial direction, it was much in the vein of like your Car and Drivers, your Road and Tracks, your general mainstream sports car magazines. But over the past, before my time, so over the past like 5 years, there's been a major shift towards the enthusiast and like car culture. It was more of a slow shift until more recently, but our main editorial direction is like capturing the essence of what makes cars and motorcycles and anything with an engine human, like makes it relatable to the person,
right?
And why people care. Like, there's no reason to care about a car or a motorcycle. They're utilities. They're like toasters. Like, why do people care? Like, obviously people do and care very deeply, but like it's capturing that. And my role there is like I do what most mainstream car journalists do. Like I write car reviews, I talk about the like news cycle and stuff, but I'm also tasked with doing like trying to put my input and experience on like the counterculture stuff, because that's where enthusiasts really lie. Like your average, this is gonna sound out of turn, but like your average guy with a 911, like a new 911, might buy in 5 years like the new McLaren or something. He's not necessarily going to be a Porsche guy for life. That's not really a good example. But the dude playing with old Harleys or the guy playing with early Ford stuff is going to do that forever. And there's generally good stories there.
Right.
And sure, he might read only like Hot Rod. Not so much Hot Rod anymore, even though it's a great magazine. But like your Hot Rod Deluxe, your Hop Up, your Rod and Culture, your TRJ.
Right.
The Riders Journal, for those unfamiliar. But we're trying to capture, like, draw in a little bit of that audience.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of tasked with doing, which is a big job, and I'm slowly kind of evolving into it. Right. But
sort of more, you're sort of more of their youth street cred.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the street cred of the. When I go to Trog in a couple weeks, I'll be ripping Auto Week gear and be like, "No, dude, we're cool. we're not narcs, dude. We had you guys on the cover 3 years ago. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not a narc.
Yeah. Be cool. Yeah.
Look, we're all cool here.
Yeah. Yeah. I and I think as far as like mainstream automotive publications, and I've been out of the publishing world for a while. I mean, I used to be a lot deeper into it, but I could kind of see that happening, a couple years ago. Because I think what it is, and I think especially why people, I'd say in the last few years, last 10, 15 years, people have really like rediscovered old cars, not only as a hobby, but really kind of also as like a lifestyle utility object. And I think there's a part of us that, I don't know if it's like, I don't really feel like it's nostalgia. I don't feel like it's that sort of like, old wound, missing something, a part of your life. I think it's more like people want something that's not so. They want something that's more of like a tactile, like a feeling, like if you get into like an old Camaro, it smells a certain way. The rear end kind of shakes and gets loose, and you can get it on the interstate, and you can just like fly down the road, and the small block sounds awesome, and you don't get that in like a brand new Corvette. I mean, brand new Corvettes are cool in their own right, but it's a completely different beast, and I think people want to just get in a car or on an old motorcycle and just go. They don't want to like set the GPS. They don't want to worry about if the satellite radio is working. They don't want to, have the proximity alarm on their seat going off every 2 seconds. They want to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, like, having been a person that's wagged the tail, to use a cliche, in a bunch of Corvettes, gotten them sideways, a bunch of late model stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
fun.
It's fun. Like, there's a visceral experience to new cars, which I didn't understand growing up, as a person that only played with vintage stuff. But you're right. I mean, there's something that you can't really capture, and it's hard to explain when you're driving, like, an old car. I mean, I was obviously, like, I didn't understand it when I was doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, when I was daily driving a fairly accurate, traditional, mild custom or semi-custom 54 Ford, which is a car, it's like, this is my car, it's fine. Uh-huh. But, like, there's something to be said about hopping out of your Corolla, your Civic or something, and into something that has, it's going to sound super cliche and trite, but, like, a soul, something that's, like, not necessarily tangible, but something that's, like, very visceral.
Right.
And there's nothing that can really experience, like, there's nothing that can match that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I have like, my work truck's, like, a 2017 Duramax dually. And it's a rad truck. Like, it's great. It's super fast. I mean, those
things rip. Yeah.
It's so fast, and even with a trailer, I just still cook down the highway. And I got but I think the difference between that and like getting in my old Chevy van is that the Duramax, as fast and as comfortable and as and it's just a work truck. It's not like the top of the line LTZ or anything or Denali. But new cars nag you, man. They freaking nag you to death. There's the bell for the seatbelt. There's it'll tell you like how much gas if you're low on fuel or if something's not working right. And it's like, man, I just want to drive. I don't want to be, bothered to death by Kit from Knight Rider,
Sure. I mean, that stuff is super helpful, though. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, it'll save you spitting a rod out of a block if you try to shift. And the car, like, I was recently in a Mercedes C63 AMG and was driving it very spiritedly and did my casual highway 3 downshifts. And the car said, no, we'll only give you 2 downshifts because you're already at $7,000, buddy. It's like if I was in a Model A, like my Model A or whatever, or like a 54 Ford or my Galaxy with all of its 3 gears, it's like, you can do as you feel. Try it.
Yeah. Good luck.
Bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you're forced to be more connected, sure, but like those nannies are super helpful. Like, they're great. If you're just cruising along, like trying to go somewhere, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Or even on a racetrack or something. But like,
sure.
You're right. Like, yeah, it's annoying. Like sometimes when you have parking sensors and stuff, but it's all out of ease of use. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think maybe. A difference for like you and I, age-wise, is I grew up driving, 70s and 80s cars. And like that's my hallmark. And maybe for me there is a little bit more nostalgia to it because I like just getting in the van, it starts up, you turn on the radio and you take off. And there's not a bunch of like computerized checklist things going on, and so I guess I kind of miss that. I guess I kind of miss that experience.
Yeah, I mean, sure, a lot of people do. That's why the whole old car thing happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But as a person that was like 14 degrees with 3 Holly 94s on a Y block and a 54 Ford trying to get it started to go to high school, it was like, this sucks. My life sucks. Why am I doing this? This shit blows. Like, please give me a new Camaro. That'd be, A, I'd get laid maybe, and B, this thing will fucking start.
Yeah.
But of course, like, obviously, like, you do things because you love them.
Right.
Like, you don't drive pieces of shit because, like, some people are forced to, but, like, you don't drive old junk because it's easy.
Right, exactly, yeah. For sure.
And it's fun. Like, I use that car as a good bonding experience with my dad because, like, obviously he's older. I don't know how much longer he has left on this earth, so it's like,
yeah.
One day I can look back and be like, oh, I fought with my dad real hard about a set of 54 Mercury quarter trim spears. Awesome. Those were good days.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, or setting up 3.2s on a Y block or whatever, doing engine swaps.
Right. Yeah.
But your point's true. Like, some people, and a lot of people don't appreciate the digital nannies, of which I love. I love all those digital nannies. I love stability control. I love electronic fuel injection. That stuff's awesome. I mean, we have reliable street cars with 840 horsepower at the flywheel, of course. But like, it's a different world. Like, I think right now, and I've said this a bunch, we're living in the golden age of performance cars. Like, if you're an enthusiast, now is awesome because you have recreation, vintage parts, whatever, blah blah, and a stockpile of original crap. And if you want to go to a Chrysler dealership or a Mercedes dealership or a Ford or whatever, you can find a car that will whip any like established muscle car's ass on a quarter mile. Then you can take it to like Big Willow or Button Willow or Gingerman in my case, and beat up on vintage 911s or 356s or whatever, and for nothing, like for relatively nothing, for like 30 grand you can buy a new Camaro, a new Mustang, or new Miata for 25 or whatever, for whenever they start.
Right.
Like cars right now are this, as a vintage car enthusiast, sounds weird, but like cars right now are awesome. And it's literally incredible, like the kind of things that are happening with cars.
Yeah.
Right now, because of technology developed by idiots like Stu Hilborn and
yeah, for sure. How do you so working at Auto Week? I mean, I think if you're going to be if you are just a complete car nut, I mean, there's pretty much only like 2 or 3 real cities you're going to live in the United States. One being Indianapolis, and the other being Detroit. So going from Indianapolis to Detroit, I mean, how's the transition? Like, what's the comparison in car culture? Like, what's your average Detroiter like as far as how deep they are into the car culture there?
That's a good question. To be honest, I think that Indianapolis has a more consistent like car scene or what have you. But that's just because in Detroit proper, a lot of people moved out of the city that were into cars or whatever.
Yeah.
And now they're living in various suburbs or even rural areas.
Sure.
Which makes sense. I mean, I live in the city and don't have a garage, so all my stuff still lives in Indy. Mm-hmm. But the average Joe here probably knows about as much as the same as the average Joe in Indianapolis. Like, your average person your average person might not necessarily be a car enthusiast. Mm-hmm. So they might know just like your average, like Consumer Reports or what your local network television show says about a car or an accident or vehicle recall. Mm-hmm. But in terms of enthusiasts, there's a similar breed of cat. Mm-hmm. Like, you have a bunch of people building drag cars to race at ORP or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's called this week in Indianapolis, and then you have Milan Dragway here. People running serious like street race cars on the strip. In terms of road racing, it's about the same. Like, there's a couple good tracks in Indiana, and there's a Michigan International Speedway here as well as Gingerman Raceway. Yep. So I think the enthusiast is about the same. I think there's probably more hot rod and custom car history in Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. I mean, given, of course, the Alexander brothers were well beyond what they should have been. Mm-hmm. In Detroit, and their first shop is now a parking lot.
Oh, bummer.
Which is a total bummer. That was one of the first things I wanted to do when I moved up here. I was like, I'm going to go check out the original Alexander Brothers shop. And I was like, oh, it's a fucking parking lot. I did live right near Henry Ford's first mansion.
Nice.
Coincidentally, yeah. And Boston Edison. Uh-huh. But in a long-winded way to make very good pod. About the same. I don't know. Like,
comparable.
Comparable, for sure. I mean, Midwestern, like, ideology still.
Yeah. And
obviously we all face winter. Now, people in Los Angeles, that's the third of the 3, like, car culture hubs. And it's not, it's a different program there, but Michigan and Indiana have the same program, more or less.
Yeah. And I think probably, I mean, I'm just spitballing is like, a major difference would be, I think Indianapolis might have a little bit more of like, to some degree, like an international flavor as far as like, IndyCar racing. Brings in, like I've met people from Australia and New Zealand and England who've come, moved to Indianapolis, strictly to be involved in IndyCar.
For sure. And drag racing. All motorsports are basically based out of Indiana, which is
pretty much
what I loved and also what I hated moving from.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's a good trade-off. It's like Indy, you got, and this is like I'm a huge local history nut, just as you are. But a lot of people don't get that Indianapolis was like this, especially before World War II, and especially before the Depression. Indianapolis is where like all of the early innovations for automobiles happened. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was built as a test track, even more so than the race. And the race was just more of like a reliability run for people who were manufacturers. And if you could win at Indy with your new innovation, you could either sell that or you could manufacture it, and you could really make your way in the world by winning the Indy 500. And that legacy of racing and automotive innovation has just kind of continued on even after all of the manufacturing that happened here died off with the Great Depression.
For sure. I mean, before Detroit was the Motor City as we know it, Indianapolis was being heralded as like the spot. I mean, you have Stutz, you have Duesenberg from Illinois who moved there. You got Studebaker, you've got Auburn, you've got
Noble, Cole, yeah.
All the major luxury automakers,
yep,
like were there, and it was basically, to put it like in a way that most like modern car enthusiasts would say, it was the Stuttgart of the United States. Like Stuttgart's where your Porsches, your Mercedes Benzes are located, and it's like Indianapolis was the spot until people were poor and couldn't afford your $2,000 Auburn or
your Stutz Bearcat,
or your J Series Duesenberg.
yeah.
And it's like, well, we're buying a bunch of Fords, and I don't know, manufacturing here being Detroit, so I'm speaking from right now. Lower priced entry level cars are just more competitive.
Yeah, Ford, Chevy, Hudson.
Yeah, you can mass market those. And eventually that's obviously still what put companies like Studebaker out of business, even though they lived through the Depression and up through the 60s. So Ford basically put them out of business. Same with like AMC acquiring Jeep. Excuse me, Chrysler acquiring AMC's staple Jeep and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The big three kind of won on marketing and entry level cars.
The big three killed my baby. Yep.
They certainly did. Certainly did.
Yep.
And the Motor City's still burning.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing definitely where Detroit comes out on top, and I am loath to admit this about Detroit, but I love Detroit rock and roll. I love Detroit rhythm and blues. I love Detroit country and rockabilly and bluegrass.
Sure.
I think that the legacy, like the musical legacy of Detroit, is definitely one place where they excel.
Absolutely. I mean, Indiana's got John Cougar Mellencamp, which is good listening.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I was so interested in moving to Detroit and moving away from Indianapolis was because of this is the birthplace, arguably the birthplace of punk rock. I mean, the MC5 playing in Wayne State's the Quad.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, seeing the MC5, because I lived a block and a half away from there, from where the MC5 played, and I was like, wow, seeing this in 1968 or whatever would have been,
right.
If I was some dweeb, would have been insane, would have been mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And obviously, roots rock and roll, and Motown and soul and girl group sounds and stuff were all big here.
Huge.
Huge. It's
not just Motown, but Fortune Records, and I didn't realize until recently, how many bluegrass bands got big in Detroit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jimmy Martin and I think the Osborne Brothers, and
hell yeah.
and the country stuff, like I can't remember who played it. Like, there's a song, like a rockabilly song called Hamtramck Baby, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then all the like later garage stuff, like the Dirt Bombs and the Gories, and
Of course, yeah. Which, seeing the Gories, like, I saw the Gories about 8 months ago, and as like a garage rock nerd, it was insane. Like, sure, they're a lot better than they've ever been, and I'm not capturing them in their youth, but like, they still played sloppily. It was the same experience I wanted to feel.
yeah,
Like, it's not like maybe seeing the Oblivions where they're all ancient and like skilled musicians now.
yeah,
But like, and the Dirt Bombs play occasionally. The Gories play. The Detroit Cobras with their revolving door of people.
yeah,
Played Saturday. I didn't see them because I'm an idiot.
yeah. Great, very good live.
So I've been told, yeah.
I've never seen. I still haven't seen the Gories. I haven't actually. I think you've seen my Gories tattoo, which I did it. I totally did it as an homage to Mick Collins, and I've like it's literally dynamite in a Dixie cup, but
Hell yeah.
But the Dixie cup being like with a rebel flag.
Yeah.
And people think I'm like, they're like, what are you, some kind of Klansman? And I'm like, no, it's a Gories tattoo. It's a joke. And they're like, I don't really get the joke.
The joke is lost on me. But I'm sure if you showed Mick Collins, you'd be like, that's funny.
Yeah, I hope, or he'd punch me or something. I don't know. But
who knows? He lives, I believe, fairly close to me. So
really,
I mean, I live in West Village. I think he lives around here. I have to double check on that one. You might cut this out. But, yeah, he still lives in downtown, I do believe.
That's rad. I had heard that he'd moved to Brooklyn. And
Wait, fucking, did he?
I heard that he was living in Brooklyn for a while. Maybe he moved back. I don't know.
Oh, hell, I don't know. I mean, when I saw him, he seemed like he was still a Detroit local.
Yeah.
But maybe that's my projection on him. Brooklyn makes a lot more sense for the music that he's playing than Detroit.
Yeah, well, I think he's like really gone back into computing, like IT. Like,
okay.
Because he was like always like a big like IT guy. Like I think he is like really like well known as like he can write like in Fortran or COBOL or Pascal or something. Like he's really into like obscure computer languages and coding. Like
more power to him.
Yeah, more power to him, man, for sure.
But he can play the shit out of a Jaguar through a Magnavox.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Yeah, I had Danny and the Demolition Doll Rods play in my living room, like
Hell yeah.
a long time ago. But I still have never seen the Gories. So
I didn't know that, or else I would have called you up and had you tag along.
That's okay. That's all right. I'll see him sometime.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on when they're playing again.
Yeah, but yeah, dude. I mean, I could not have imagined a better place for you to end up, Wes, between your love of automobiles and your love of, like American garage rock and roll music. I literally am so stoked that you're there, that you're working for Auto Week, and that you're, getting to live that life. I'm very, very happy for you, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's obviously a transition. I mean, and I do love Detroit, but Indianapolis is still always going to be home. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like walking around Broad Ripple, walking around Fountain Square, making fun of Fountain Square and Broad Ripple. It's like, as you're well aware, I grew up on the South Side, so it's like I have all these weird quirks, in just terms of like life mannerisms that people up here don't understand. And I mean, moving as a young adult, it's like out of college, it's like very, very like first world problem. Like I lost all my friends and stuff. Like it's when you grow up in a weird culture where it's like respect and like friendship is hard earned and like hard lost, and like your friends are your people. That was a big transition to move to a completely different area and like try to assimilate and like develop new lasting friendships, which I think, I don't know, so far has failed. Which is sad, really sad. And for a while I was dating a girl in Indy and like doing that stuff. So I was basically an Indianapolis resident again. Which any therapist would probably analyze. But yeah, I'm pumped. I was super pumped to move here. I was basically going to move here anyway. It was either here or St. Louis or San Diego. And like this whole thing kind of was a whirlwind and happened. And I'm very thankful for it. But that's not to say I don't miss, like, Indianapolis is kind of, it's really hot right now. A lot of good bands. The car scene's great. The bike scene, like, a lot of infighting, as there is in any scene, but like, I know everybody. It's very familiar, as homes should be.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I don't have here, and that's fine. I mean, I basically look like a dweeb-ass poser, because all my stuff's in Indianapolis. I'm like, yeah, I've got that. Like, your general wannabe. And it's like, people get to know me like, oh, you're not kidding? I was like, yeah, no, I'm not kidding. It's fine. I have cars and magazines before I can drive. It's fine.
I love that.
It's like, it's kind of like, it's weird. I mean, obviously, I'm going to move out of the city, I think, next year and kind of move to a suburb and kind of get a house and like get myself settled so I can bring my stupid project up, but like just seem less like a poser. But there's that like sense of credibility, or to go on a tangent of like, and I've ripped on people in the past for this, which is ironic. It's like you can talk the talk of being like a chopper dude or an old car guy or whatever, but until you actually experience the problems of spending money and time on something, right. It's like it's hard to really appreciate it, and it's hard to like, I don't know, judge the social currency of someone else if they don't have that tangible good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's very good pod. Some existential crises from Wesley that I'm running through. Nice apartment.
Very, very, very compelling. That's.
Oh, for sure.
That's what we're doing.
People made it this far. I should pay them.
Yeah, bullshit. No, I think it's funny because, and your brother and I talk about this a lot, where you get kind of all these like kind of new people that come in to like the gearhead lifestyle or whatever you want to call it. And they'll ask you questions because they recognize you as like, you're more advanced or you're more, initiated or whatever. And so they'll ask you your advice. And like if somebody said like, oh, I want to get a motorcycle, what should I get? And I'll just say, just go ahead and get an Evo Sportster. Don't mess around with Hondas because in 6 months or after a season, that'll be the next progression. They're reliable. You'll never lose money when you want to step up to a bigger bike, or you can keep it. They're extremely reliable. They're easily moddable, whatever. But just go buy an Evo Sportster for $2,500 and start off learning on that, and you'll be fine. And so then a season will go by. They'll follow your advice. They'll go get it, and then they'll come back a year later. And then they'll be like, what do you think I should do to my bike? And I'm like, I don't know. Are you happy with the power? You could punch out the motor. You could put it in a rigid frame, or you could just go get a shovel head, or whatever you want to do. Like it's kind of the next progression. And so maybe they'll listen to you for that like second progression, but then after that, it's like they're initiated enough that they, like, whatever you say is like bullshit, and they won't listen to you after that, and that to me is like kind of a turnoff. Where if people get to that point, I'm just like, okay, If you don't want to listen to what I have to say, that's totally fine. Do whatever you need to do.
No, for sure. I mean, like, people ask me advice about cars all the time, and the general piece of advice I give people is, like, do what you feel like doing. I don't care. Like, your decision does not affect me at all, unless you're buying my crap, and then, like, buy my crap, please.
I'll give you some general words of guidance, but after that, please don't bother me.
Yeah, but it's like, friends and stuff, like, friends getting into the whole thing or whatever, I generally look at it as more of a financial burden than anything else. It's like, I have a good friend who was trying to get in the chopper thing, and he bought an Ironhead Sportster.
Oh man!
When he was still in school, got a good deal on it. It was a nice bike. Took it apart like a bonehead. But if he sold it tomorrow, he would lose maybe $100 at best, and it doesn't run anymore. He's just been sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just try to talk to people about, like, or try to be rational with people about their means and stuff. But, like, to your point, people listen to you until they feel like they're fucking cool, and they'll just fucking ignore you. It's great. I love it. I love being ignored.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's like, and I love being ignored by, like, I don't know, growing up, like, being so steeped in this knowledge or whatever. I'm using air quotes because I'm lame. It's like I would talk to older people at car shows and crap. Like, try to talk to cars with older people, like people in their 30s, when I was like 15 or 16, and it gets blown off. And it's like, well, you've been doing this. You're 30. You've been doing this for 2 years. I'm 16. I've been doing this for 16 years. Since I could read, probably, so about 10 years. What do I know? So it's always funny when people, like, you try to give people advice, and then they just blow you off and do something stupid, and then come back to you later to help you, like, ask you to fix it or whatever. It's kind of a long way I was going about that.
Yeah.
But it's just funny, and I don't know. I'm a very forgiving person, and I'm very, like, understanding if you need to make your own mistakes, because that's what I did. Mm-hmm. I got to get into big fights with my dad about stupid stuff, and then mess something up, and then be like, well, Dad, let me tell you about the story. This Sportomatic no longer really shifts, so we got a problem here.
Right.
And then go from there. So, yeah, I mean, it's easy to harp on. I am very on a tangent. It's easy to harp on, like, hipsters or whatever nomenclature you want to use, people that are just getting into it. Uh-huh. And I've done my fair share of that. Don't think I haven't.
Sure.
But, like, at the end of the day, it's some dingbat trying to be cool and trying to, like, have fun, which is what we're all doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sure, they might actually be functioning at it because they're not, like, autistic and obsessed with it, but, like, in terms of being cool and having fun. But, like, eventually that being cool and having fun might become, like, their lifeblood or their livelihood in some cases, as I've seen. And we're all about perpetuating an idea, right? Like, or an aesthetic, more so. Like, the whole greater concept of Americanized cool. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this is excellent pod, but, like, which is, I mean, it's always nice to be nice to people, and like you said, people will eventually not listen to you, and that's great. It's fine.
Yeah. I think it's awesome that more people are coming into the hobby, and I think it's great that it's expanding. But it also, to some degree, makes me want to retract a little bit. It's like, I'm glad there's more people in the hobby, but at the same time, it's like I'm kind of a loner anyway, so I'm just like, you know, I guess it validates me to some degree, but I don't feel the necessity to, like, socialize either, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, but, like, to your point, it's not like you spend 4 months in the garage in the winter, or 5 months or 6 months, whatever, because you're a social butterfly.
Yeah.
It's like, you're doing this for a reason, man. It's not because you're well socially adjusted.
Yeah. I didn't go without my, disposable income for the last 6 months because, I wanted to meet girls. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I know my shovelhead's got me laid exactly 0 times, which
Yet.
I'm fine with.
Yet.
Oh,
Yet.
I think in perpetuity it'll be a resounding 0 times my charming good looks and dashing personality.
Exactly.
Will also not get me laid. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's good for the hobby, and it's obviously good for a bunch of people, and it's nice to have your culture validated.
Yeah.
But it, like everybody a few years back was facing that like weird crisis of like, is our authentic like group of people, is it being like I don't know, invalidated or watered down by a bunch of kids with Evo Sportsters or cone shovels or whatever, or Airheads,
right.
or even Hondas. And it's like, yeah, probably. But like, why are you doing this? Like, if you're doing it because it's fun and it's weird, then like it'll still be fun and weird. If you're doing it to make money, then you're set. If you're doing it to be exclusive, then find another hobby.
Yeah, I agree. And it's and it's that kind of like elitism, I think, that kind of, kills it. But I think there's like a balance there between like elitism and majesty.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I kind of always want to be chasing the majesty of it a little bit, but still not be looking down my nose at people.
Sure.
There's a balance there.
Yeah, which I had a hard time finding, like for myself, because I'm a huge custom car nerd. So anecdotally, like when I was building my car, people of similar ages or even a little bit older would ask me questions about custom cars or like their cars and like what they should do, and I'd always be like, I don't know, just look at the fucking magazine. I don't know, like what I'm doing is I'm ripping off magazines. It's great. I'm fortunate enough to I can spend $500 on fucking Lucas SLR 700 headlights because that's what a car would have had in 1961. If you were a competitive show car running in like semi-custom class, you had to have Lucas lights, or else you're a dweeb. You're nobody.
Right.
Which was like a dick move. And I was like looking down my nose at people building lesser cars or whatever. And then when I started getting heavily involved in the whole Harley thing, there's a little bit of that, like I said, but more it's just about like being weird. You know what I mean? Like when I started getting into traditional choppers or whatever it was called back in the day, it was just because like the whole big tire bike thing, everybody was so serious and like everything was so important. And then occasionally you'd see some dweeb on a panhead, and it's like, oh, this guy's having a genuine blast, and like he doesn't care. Like, sure, he's appropriating like Wild Angels or any Corbin biker flick and like whatever, but also he just doesn't care. Which is the essence of cool, but like, I don't know. That's what drew me in, was people like not taking it seriously. Because I don't take a lot of things seriously because I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah. I agree. Me too.
But like, and now the whole chopper game has become so serious. Your Instagram follower count is so serious. Just being like popular is so serious, and that's kind of what drove me away a little bit. So I've been so disinterested in like being cool or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I was ever born cool, but it'll go back to being lame and just a bunch of idiots doing stuff because it's fun eventually.
Yeah.
But until then, people are doing cool stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. It's nice to see, I think. And, dude, it blew my mind when I realized that the first Ramble Tamble we went to was 4 years ago. That seems like a fucking another life.
Yeah,
but it was only 4 years ago.
Yeah, that was such a fucking beautiful time to be alive or whatever. Like,
yeah.
It was like going to the Bean Blossom, or it was going like Bean Blossom in the 60s, 70s or whatever. Like, it was like going to a special, like something that we can tell our kids about, or we can tell to some idiot when we're 75 years old trying to put together a then ancient Evo Sportster. It's like, there was a really special thing happening in the late 2000s, early 2010s, early teens, as it were, where it's like people were doing such cool stuff, and like,
and it was totally underground and secret, and
and not even underground and secret, but like just like nobody cared. Like nobody cared about it. Like it wasn't going to Louisville for a derby party is something, but going to like a dude's Harley shop, like who doesn't have, who nobody knows from Adam, it's like this is a fun time. Like we're just gonna go see the best Black Sabbath cover band I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly.
And like meet a bunch of cool people.
Yeah, like everybody there. Like I took a couple of videos of that time, and I think I look at those videos and I'm like, I'm friends with like all those people now. Like out of these like 100 people that are here, like I'm on a first name basis with like 75 of them. You know, like it. But it's so strange to me what a short time ago that was. Like how I've become like better friends with like you, Christian, Dave, Reese, like all those cats that were there, and like like you and I and Dave and Christian had all, but I had hung out before, but like I think that was the first time Dave and Christian met each other.
It very well could be. Yeah, it could be the thing. I know I introduced Chris McGee to Dave Herr at his show, but I think Christian met Dave for the first time at Ramble Tamble,
Yeah.
And they're best friends now,
Yeah. And it's just crazy how things have exploded in that time period.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's like a fucking like a comet, it's just absolutely bizarre, and it's beautiful and wonderful. I couldn't be more happy with it.
Yeah, and it's also again so weird because I don't know, 4 years ago, like you said, it seems like another lifetime ago. Like it seems like another life. Like it doesn't seem real.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
And that first Ramble Tamble, like, sure, what's his face? Got super drunk or whatever, heard that girl, but like, it's what it is. I'm just kidding. Cut that out. Don't cut that out. It's fine. But like, there's so many things. Like, I remember this is old time 25-year-old Wesley Wren, like Josh Kirpius being like a teenage dweeb, shooting my brother's Sportster.
A greaser.
Yeah, so he was a little greaser kid, friends with Josh Hall or whatever. And at the Road Rocket Rumble in 2002?
Yeah.
That can't be right. Sometime around there.
Uh-huh.
Like, before Josh Kirpius was in Lana Del Rey music videos, which is why I don't think he'll talk to me anymore. Those are the first, because Ride came out right as Ramble Tamble happened. And I was like, I made a snide remark to Josh. He might not even remember it. He might not know who I am. But it's just so weird how everything's evolved and people have grown up and
yeah. Well,
I don't know.
I will say one thing about Josh as far as I've gotten to know him. Man, he's a very creative, intelligent dude who loves motorcycles, and he's weird in his own way, and he's, whether it's, luck or hard work or some combination of the two, he's made a life for himself doing what he loves. And just like you have, man. Like he's
sure. I don't want to be misconstrued where I'm shitting on Josh Kirby. I think that dude rules.
Yeah.
I think
it's just funny to see somebody go from relative obscurity to kind of a really
super big deal.
Yeah, a great position in the industry and where he is.
Well, and just evolve into such a cool person. I mean, hopefully it doesn't take this out of turn. But I said, saw him when I was a kid or whatever, when I was too young to realize how cool he was. But then watching him build that Sportster and do all his videography stuff, and he seems kind of like the same weirdo that I am and my brother is and you are.
Yeah.
It's a little bit reclusive, not too, a little shy.
Yeah. A little bit socially awkward.
Yeah, and it's am. It's like, I can take that social awkwardness as like, that will amplify my social awkwardness, and I'm like, this dude's way too cool to talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to be like, sit back and assume he knows who I am.
Yeah.
But no, he's done so much. He's done so much for the hobby. He's done so much for himself.
Yeah.
And he should be very, very proud. Like,
Yeah.
he should be extremely proud.
Yeah, he's rad.
And his sports are rules.
Yeah, he's like a genuinely nice guy. Like he's cool. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast, man. So,
the Auto Week podcast.
Yeah. So when did you start that?
Oh, when did we start it, or when did we first get it going? Like, get it published? We started it about 4 months ago, or whatever. I was put in charge of it at a meeting, and like trying to get everything wrangled and whatever. And I was trying to do it on a shoestring budget, not knowing that one of our sister publications had a full studio, like a full recording studio, like not a building away, like on the same campus, like just like we just had to walk over there. So I don't know. We recorded a bunch of them. I was getting some flack for quality and blah blah blah, but eventually we kind of got it sorted out. We have 2 live right now. We've got a bonus podcast coming up here in a little bit because we're in a weird magazine shipping schedule. It's fine, but like we've been really trying hard at it for the past month and a half, 2 months probably, trying to get everything really rolling. Yep. And if you're a fan of discourse, talk, jazz on jazz, cars, witty puns, find us on iTunes. It's the Auto Week podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, my role came from being like a music snob, more or less. Like my boss and I relate a lot on music, and that's why he kind of put me in charge of it. And then eventually, as things started to go south, took me out of my in charge role and put somebody with actual managerial skills involved, and just left me to do my own thing. As like a showrunner and a recorder. Yeah.
It's fun though.
Oh yeah, it's a blast. Like when everything's going great, it's a blast. When everything's going south, it's a major headache. Like the last episode we did, episode 2, coincidentally, I spent 6 hours trying to edit it to make it sound good. and even then, it sounded pretty bad. To be honest, it's not how I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
But it's a learning, like as you've experienced, I'm sure, like it's all a learning experience. So, like I didn't go to school to be a recording engineer, but
no.
It's interesting to be like in charge of running a program, editing it, and creating your own voice through audio medium.
Right. I think like the biggest challenges for me as far as like producing a podcast, I mean, definitely number one would be money. So,
for sure, yeah.
My setup that I'm recording on now is pretty low tech. I mean, I just use an iPad with a recording program, and then just do the calls like straight from my phone. But I started like building like a studio in my basement, and I'm trying to like get the money together to complete that. But learning to edit, getting guests is. I'm super thankful for my guests that take the time to come on the show, but
for sure,
just to get somebody, because of sort of the beat that I cover, creative people that wrench and ride. It's a real challenge to like deal with like the artistic mindset, which is flaky, frankly.
Yeah, at best.
But it's cool too, because it's like they have cool bikes and cars and whatever. So it's really like you definitely have to manage those expectations where it's like if somebody commits to come on the show and like they flake out or they no call, no show, or they change their mind at the last minute, you just sort of have to, just the way it is,
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the fortunate position where I can just like lean on PR people and be like, hey, your guy was supposed to call me, or I was supposed to call your guy.
Right.
And then that happens. But like dealing with
so rough.
They're not engineers. It's like I could be talking to you, or I could have just started my own business today, or whatever. I could have slept all day. Who knows? I could be. Am I a therapist? You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a struggle. It's a struggle everywhere, of course, but
right.
Finding people that are where I'm concerned with your podcast, more so with talking to me, it's like, how do you make these conversations interesting? It's like that's a skill into itself.
I just talk, man. I'm a fucking talker. Like, that's just what I do.
For sure.
I have, you know, a lot of these podcasts that I listen to, and especially people whose podcasts that I really admire, and some are like more general, like, you know, Mark Maron, but like, you know, people that are like more specifically oriented toward like politics, like Dave Rubin or Stefan Molyneux or whatever. They are very much more like, they have it like, you know, bullet pointed out, you know, like where they want the conversation to go. And like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I kind of like it to keep a little more loose and, you know, flowing and kind of go where it's going to go.
Yeah. Which is where I was like, not concerned, but I was cautiously optimistic of like what you had done in terms of prep. Like whenever I do an interview, I generally have like a story idea in mind,
right?
And then kind of go from there. Even in terms of just podcast stuff, which I don't do a lot of the interviews for podcasts, but like you can always shape a story through the questions you ask.
Exactly.
That's where I was like. That's where I was just curious, more or less, like what this was going to be.
Generally, when I interview somebody, I mean, I know who they are. If we're not already friends, then I have a pretty good idea of like who they are as a person or a creative person. And then I generally just kind of stick to the chronological narrative. So where'd you grow up? What'd your parents do? That kind of stuff. And then I just, let them kind of talk and then kind of roll into like, so how did you get into, what was your formative experiences that guided you toward your creative, endeavors? And then they talk about that. Then I'm like, so when did, motorcycles or cars, or when did you get your first van? When did that come in? And then we just kind of talk. And then pretty soon it's like, oh, we've talked for 45 minutes. Okay, well, like whatever we hit after 45 minutes is just like, icing on the cake. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you and I have been talking for an hour and 40 minutes. So,
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to give you the best pod possible.
The best pod possible. I don't know. I'm pretty stoked. We're basically just having our normal friendly conversation that we would have in person.
Sure, yeah. Which we still need to do. Like, obviously I was in India a bunch, but I was like hanging out or whatever. Next time I'm there, if you're trying to hang out, let me know.
Just call me up, dude. I'm always around.
Yeah, same. Obviously not same, but like...
I basically have this band project I work on.
Oh, really?
That's kind of like, stuck in second gear. And then I have my Shovelhead, which is like, not literally stuck in second gear.
Yeah,
but,
I was going to make that joke.
Yeah, but like, in a figurative project sense, it is definitely stuck in second gear.
I thought you wrote it a while back, like last year.
I did, but I changed motors.
Oh, that's right. You went from a generator to a big stroker cone.
Yep. So
that's a Delcron cased motor, right?
It is. It is.
Oh, yeah.
With
how big is it?
93.
Whew.
So S&S top.
That's good size.
S&S top end, S&S flywheel, Delcron cases.
That should be a good, powerful motor.
Dyna, dual fire coil ignition.
Oh, hell yeah.
Dual plug heads. So, and it's funny because like your Christian came over. I'm going to end up having to edit this down, so it doesn't matter. But Christian came over today to like, I was going to take some parts up to the polisher, And so we were talking, and I was like, I thought his motor was going to be like a monster motor, and it's like a 92, and I'm like, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, so my motor's 1 cube bigger than yours, but mine's a shovel head, and yours is a pan.
His is a pan, and the fact that the rocker boxes are shaped like pans. Like, he's got STD stage 4 heads.
Yeah.
Which are basically shovel heads.
Yeah. I know. But in my mind, I'm like, maybe I could keep up with Christian. Maybe I could. And then I'm like, no, he's like 80 pounds lighter than me. So just.
Yeah. And he's trying to die. Hashtag trying to die.
Yep. For sure. So.
And he's got a big counter tooth, I believe, on his transmission, his big counter sprocket. So that might. He's a pretty crazy kid. Likes to go fast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he will. Good for him.
Yeah, I like going slow. It's fine.
I like being able to get out of people's way, but I don't need to actually ride a rocket either.
Yeah.
I like a nice balance of performance and reliability. I like a motor that's got some balls that I can get on the interstate and, truck, but I also like a motor that's easy to start.
Yeah. I mean, my shovel is probably making all of 45 horsepower at best on its best day. And, dude, I mean, thing doesn't necessarily haul the mail compared to like a CBR or like a Gixxer or anything, but like, I have no problem ripping that thing 100 miles an hour, easy, coming home from Chicago from Hoodbush.
Mm-hmm.
And it's geared as a city bike too, so it's like, you don't need to make a shit ton of horsepower to have a good time.
Yeah.
You do need to make a shit ton of horsepower to look cool and break parts, but
yeah.
Like it's a cool thing. Like big powerful engines are cool, but like on a dumb little choppy that weighs all of, like, there's no way my shovel head weighs more than 400 pounds.
Right.
Like, you don't need a whole bunch of power to go fast.
No.
And when your contact patch is like maybe all of a square inch, you're just gonna blow the tire off. It's like, I'm running a little shitty bi-ply tire. It's fine. Like, I get all the traction my horsepower can feed.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. I'm just stoked to be able to I'm really happy that finally this will be the summer that all my buddies have running bikes.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Mine went home last couple weeks ago or whatever, I guess. Got my shovel head where it'll go, a little extra start again because it's been so neglected. Because I've been too stupid living in Detroit to maintain it.
Right.
And then Christian obviously played with it some more this past week, so we should rip for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate
no problem. Thanks for having me.
And next time you're home, we'll hang out.
For sure, yeah. I'll be home probably Memorial Day weekend for the 500. I'm not going to the 500 this year. I'm gonna go to probably Beatersville.
Damn it! I'm going to the 500.
Dang it! I went last year. It was a good time. It's a great time.
I've never been. I committed to go.
Hell yeah! No, it's a good time. You'll have fun. I committed to go 2, and then plans changed. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go to Beatersville. It's fine.
Yeah, that'll be fun too.
Yeah, it'll be good. It's the first time in a new venue, so.
Yep.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, that was my talk with Wesley Wren. It's it's a full moon tonight, and it's super late, and I went out to the bar and had a couple beers. So I'm just going to cut this short. You can still support the show by buying a shirt or making a Patreon donation or becoming a subscriber through Patreon. You can still get additional content on the blog. I still don't have my motorcycle done. That's about it. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off and head to bed. Hope you like this episode. Always appreciate the feedback from everybody. And I'll have a new episode up for you next week. Trying to do a little theme here over Indianapolis during the month of May, so hopefully it'll all pan out and you all will dig it. So stay tuned, and until the next time, we'll see you down the road.